following program is rated D for dumb.
So much I can smell my own breath. My baby left me, my best friend's not at home. Can't get that woman off my mind. I've never been the broody kind, but there's still one thing makes me come alive. Yeah,
the following podcast is rated D for dumb. You're listening to Dumbing It Down with Dave, the fastest podcast on earth. Listen to Dave commute to and from work on the New York State Thruway in his 2008 Kia Rio LX. He talks about pragmatism, truth, happiness, and the search for it all. Join Dave as he asks and tells you how life ought to be. And now, here's Dave.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Dumbing It Down with Dave, episode number 218. Can you believe it? 218. Let me ask you something. Are you ready to dumb it down? Okay. Well, you've had plenty of time to think about it. We're a little bit late with this episode. For those of you who listen to us week after week, I try to drop a show on Mondays and Tuesdays at the beginning of the week, and then later on in the week, Saturday when I'm on my way home. I am on my way to work, but it's Friday. I am just getting back to work. I've been away for a few days because I took bereavement leave. Yay! Bereavement leave. Anyway, 3 days of paid leave because somebody in your family passes away. Yes. So who passed away? My mom. Yeah, so my mom died. Yep. And we're going to do a show about it because it's been, my mom's been in my life for 56 years. And, well, not really. More like the first 13 years. And the last 43 kind of been like, in the cast of characters. Remember like Gilligan's Island? The skipper, and the rest. Remember that? And then whatever, for some reason, they didn't feel good about and the rest, and they changed it to the Professor and Marianne. Remember that? So, yeah, she became like and the rest about 40 some odd years ago. Maybe I'll tell that story. I mean, I have to now because I sort of brought it up to you, and you're curious, like, wait a minute, why would you talk about that like that about your mom? And why 43 years ago? Well, let me get to that. So anyway, it's April 24th. It is Friday. It is 5:51 p.m. I just got on the New York State Thruway. I am on my way to work. I took Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday off for bereavement leave because my mom passed last Saturday. So if today's the 24th, tomorrow's the 25th. So she passed away on the morning of the 18th. I was asleep, taking a nap at the Malden Rest area after 5 days. I think it was 5 days of work. I can't remember. Last week, I was taking a nap at the Malden Rest area, and I got a phone call, and I saw the 718 area code, which is Brooklyn. And as soon as I saw that area code at 6:30 in the morning, I knew that this was the call because my mother had been in failing health. For those of you who are listening to the first time, my mom had a stroke about a year and a half ago, and she came back pretty strong. Not strong enough to go home because she was on a feeding tube. They wouldn't let her go home, and my father had limitations about taking care of her and so on and so forth. So she stayed in the nursing home, which was the best thing for her. I was very heavily involved in the whole process. For those of you who have been listening for the last year and a half, 2 years, you know that I took family leave off, and I went down to Brooklyn, and I helped nurse her back. I had to be an advocate for my mom because she's deaf. For those of you who don't know, she's deaf. So she's deaf. She's a senior citizen of 81 at the time, and she was recovering from a stroke, a pretty severe stroke. The day after, we couldn't even recognize her, really. Her face was all puffed up. She couldn't talk. She was just immobile. She was just horrible shape. And we were talking more about do not resuscitate. We were supposed to have a family meeting on a Saturday morning, and it turned out that she made such a miraculous recovery in about a day or so after the stroke that that we did not have to talk about do not resuscitate. We started to talk about acute and subacute rehab. And all this is a year and a half ago. I don't really remember too many details. I just remember that it was a lot of work. And I had to be an advocate for my mom because she's deaf. And I knew that wherever she went, there was going to be a problem. I just knew it. And I had to do something about it. Only because, by the way, I know my mother would probably do something about it for me. I mean, she did when I was a child. You know, when I was a baby, I had a hernia surgery. She stayed at the hospital because I was afraid. But looking back now, I don't know what I was afraid of. I remember when I asked her, hey, can you stay with me? But I really kind of, I forgot what year I had the hernia. I had my hernia, my double hernia, by the way. I think about 9 or 10 years old or something like that. I forget. I know I missed out on sleepaway camp because of my double hernia. And I just saw it in the movies. Mommies and daddies would always stay with their kids. I saw it in TV shows and movies. Or whatever. Can you stay with me, Mom? So I asked her, and she stayed with me. I wasn't really that afraid. I just wanted my mom. I wanted somebody to put out an effort. That's how long ago I became who I became because I watched way too much TV and I had too little family interaction. So too little positive family interaction. So anyway, so I went down there. I took about 60 some odd days of leave, and I slept on a cot next to my mother at Columbia Presbyterian. And then when we moved her to Menorah, the Menorah nursing home, I slept on a cot about 5 feet, both times, several feet from her. And I saw way too much Sonia, way too much nakedness, way too much fecal matter, way too much everything. But I had to advocate for her because she was always surrounded by the International House of Nurses. You know, nurses from all over the world, you know, Africa, Guyana, the Ukraine, Hungary, you know, Italy, whatever, Puerto Rico, Jamaica, Haiti. I mean, from all over. And none of them knew how to take care of a deaf woman. And I had to do it alone. I had to advocate alone. My father could not advocate because he needs an advocate for himself. And my sister, who I've talked about on this episode many times. In fact, episode 52, I think, is one of my most popular episodes. You know, my sister Dina, D-E-N-A. So I talk about her throughout this podcast, but she couldn't help me because she had to stay at work. She's a one-woman, one-woman show, and she could not take off time. So I was lucky. I had worked for a company that I was expendable, and there's a program in place called family leave. Isn't that great? It is great. So family leave is very important, and so is bereavement leave. Very important. It gave me 3 days to kind of take care of business. Today's my 1 day back, Friday. I'll have off the next couple of days. I wish I had timed it better, where I worked this past Monday, and then I would have taken off Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and then I would have had my weekend off. But I really did not want to go into work Monday. I was just exhausted from Saturday morning all the way up until that point. So many things to tell you, folks. If I could break it down, let's just take a breath. Put a little period there on the icebreaker. Kind of clue you in. I know I spoke fast for some people. Maybe I didn't speak clearly. I am a little bit still in a fog. And I usually am in some sort of a fog, 24/7 because I don't sleep properly. And I am a man of 56 years of age. And I'm doing the best I can to, get rid of the fog and eat better and sleep better and exercise better. But, this virus thing has, impeded the progress because they've closed Planet Fitness. So now I have to commute home every day instead of living in my van. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you got to look at Dave's Fit Life on YouTube. Go to Dave's Fit Life. Also on Facebook, Dave's Fit Life is a YouTube group, is a Facebook group, and on Facebook you also join the Dumbing It Down with Dave Facebook group. So, and I'm trying to get more of Facebook involved in here because this way there's information there you can see. I should be blogging more, but there's just not enough time to blog. So I just do this. That's why I do this podcast in my car during my commute to and from work, because I just don't have enough time. I don't have that extra time. If I'm not at work, I'm on my way home, and then when I get home, I'm trying to get some sleep. I don't get a lot of sleep, but I try. I have to try. Because when you drive a tractor trailer for 14 to 16 hours a day, you got to be awake. You just got to be awake. and it's the most painful, horrible thing in the world when you're tired. It's just, I hate that feeling. So anyway, so I've brought some people up to date who've never listened to the show or are new to the show. For those of you who have been listening, you know all this. All right. So Saturday I get a phone call 6:30. Right, so I was saying there's a lot of personal stuff I want to share with you, and there's a lot of not so personal stuff I want to share with you, all in regards to having a family member pass away. Let me start with my pragmatism. Let's do that, because I know that. If I don't finish up one or the other, I could just do another episode, which I'm going to have to do tomorrow anyway on the way home. So for those of you who are listening to this, I guess you can expect another episode within 24 hours, because this was supposed to be done this past Monday. So I'm doing it today, Friday. Tomorrow I'm on my way home. I got to do another one. So hopefully I'll leave something left over, and I'll do one on the way home. Okay, so here we go. So there's pragmatism, right? There's stuff that's not so personal, but a little bit personal. And then there's the personal stuff, my relationships with people. Okay. And maybe the two blend, they cross over. The pragmatism, seeps into the personal stuff, and the personal stuff seeps into the pragmatism. All right, I'll just do the best I can. Of course, for those of you that don't know, this show is not scripted. I am driving my Dodge Caravan. Oh, even though Alex Exum at the top of the show, thank you, Alex Exum, ALEXEXUM.com, Alex Exum, who does the intro at the top of the show. I've always thanked him since day one. He's been doing the intro, and there you go. He does a good job saying, here's Dave, and all that good stuff. So, and of course, Hal in Philly. Hal in Philly does the song, Going for a Drive. Great song. Should be a number one hit somewhere in the world. Apparently, it's just a number one hit in the Dumbing It Down with Dave world. Hal's down there in his Halpocalypse, in his basement. I don't know who he's calling. Capitol Records, Clive Davis. I don't know who he's calling. Bon Jovi. He's in Philadelphia, and Bon Jovi loves a good song. I would call him. I would somehow stalk him out and say, hey, Bon. Oh, it's actually John, right? Hey, John Bon. Hey, JB. I got this song. You want to sing it? Make $1 million. Make another few $1 million. He already has millions of dollars. So, Hal in Philly, who does the show, It's Easy When You Know Hal, and he also does a show called the Tales of the Road Warriors, which I think I've fallen behind a little bit. So, there you go. And, of course, if you hear any AI voices, you can thank Linda Irwin from Awesome Insanity Surfers. If you hear any AI voices, I don't think you're going to this episode. I think it's just going to be me, straight through. Okay, so anyway, but thanks to Linda anyway. Why not? I don't mind doing that. A lot of the shows are very selfish. I happen to know many talk show hosts, podcast show hosts, very selfish. Never mention another show. If they mention me, go, oh, I know a guy, but never would say Dave Canyon. Never could put themselves out to thank me or to just embrace me, but whatever. Unlike Ed, my buddy Ed from Brooklyn, my brother from another borough. That's what we are. He's my brother from another borough. Ed Saves the World. There's a podcast worth listening to. Ed Saves the World. There you go. So, he's on Spreaker now. Yeah. Thanks to me, I guess. He's on Spreaker. I didn't get any credit for it, from Spreaker, because I don't know what they're doing. They're dragging their feet on the contract. But so anyway, there you go. A couple of people who are friends of mine in the podcast world, and I listen to, and they listen to me. We support each other, and it's all nice. Okay. So let me quickly get to pragmatism about a funeral, about a loved one dying. Somewhere, all these dates, folks, are approximations. I can't remember every single day and date of my life. I do the best I can. Sometime a while ago, first of all, as a truck driver, I listened to a lot of radio, a lot of AM talk radio, and of course, FM radio. And when I got my Sirius, I listened to Howard Stern night and day and all that stuff. But, sometimes you're not. I'm on the road a lot. I've been on the road a lot. It'd be so fascinating to do the math and do 5 days a week, 14 hours a day, 70 hours a week, 70 times 50. Let's just say I take 2 weeks vacation. 70 times 50, that's 3,500 hours a year. That's right. Is it? 10 times 7 is 700. 5 times 7 is 3,500. So 3,500 over 10 years, let's just say, is 35 hours. 35,000 hours of truck driving. 35,000 hours of my hand on the wheel. One hand on the wheel, one hand on the stick shift. And when I say stick shift, I mean stick shift. So, that's a lot of driving. It's a lot of AM radio. I'm listening to talk. I'm listening to financial. I'm listening to personal. I'm listening to book reviews. I'm listening to movie reviews. So much. All this news. So much. I used to listen to a guy named Bruce Williams. Before there was a Dave Ramsey, I would listen to Bruce Williams. And Bob Brinker. It's so many financial guys. But it was really not until Dave Ramsey, most recently, and I don't know how many years ago this was, where he said on one of his shows, as a parent, one of the greatest gifts you can give your child, as a parent, one of the greatest gifts you can give your child is that when you pass away, all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed, and everything is spoken for. Do not leave your kids a mess. Don't leave them a debt, and don't leave them a mess. Leave them clarity. Leave them freedom. Give them something that they'll treasure for the rest of their lives. And that's, organization. And when I heard him talk about that, I was like, wow, yeah, absolutely. I could do that. I can't leave my son $1 million fortune. I can't leave, but I can do that. I know I can. I just got to, put some energy into it. I was very inspired by Dave Ramsey, and I just had to put some energy into it. So, of course, my wife and I embarked on this journey of ourselves doing all this. But at the same time, and by the way, again, this could have been 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I don't remember how long I've been listening to Dave Ramsey. Yeah, it's probably about 15. My son's 23. My son is 23. I remember he was in a Little League. I was at a different company. I was at Price Chopper as a truck driver. So I would say, yeah, probably about 15 plus years ago, my son was playing Little League, and I would go to these Dave Ramsey things in Albany. It was a class I took. I guess they call it Freedom Financial Peace Institute or something like that. And I took this class at a church. And I wasn't even a member of the church. But they were nice people, and I took this class. And it was all about financial peace. So I learned a lot for myself. I learned a lot from my wife and myself and my son. And it really did affect us down the road. But we're not going to talk about that. But what I did do is take that message with me. And I spoke to my sister. She's 2 years older than me. So she will always be the oldest one. She will always be the boss. I will always be the baby. I will always be the ridiculous one, the silly one. And by the way, not my intention. I've tried to be very serious with my family. And it doesn't matter what I say. They don't want to hear it. They have nothing. It just doesn't happen. Everything I say has to be approved by the eldest, by my sister. If she backs me up, then we got something going. If she poo-poos on me, which she does every time, then nothing happens. They go, don't worry about it, Dave, silly boy. I'm like, oh, okay, trying to help here, just because I'm younger. I mean, by the way, 2 years younger, and when you're ages of 12 and 10 or 10 and 8, I get it. But when you're 2 years younger, between 50 and 48, enough already. I'm an adult. You should pay attention to what I have to say. I am probably the smartest one out of all of us right here. But whatever. And smartest because I listen to so much talk radio. I'm getting information all the time. And if I only comprehend 1% of it, it's still way more than the other three are getting. So I said, hey, to my sister and to my mother and father, Mom, Dad, you're in your 70s. This is 15 years ago. They're 82 now, whatever. So 65, whatever, 67 years old. I said, one of these days, something's going to happen. And we need to be prepared. We need to really make the arrangements, for your demise. By the way, it doesn't have to be old age demise. It could be a horrible accident demise. It could be a tragic illness demise. There could be so many reasons why you die. That's just the word for it. Die. Death. Dead. Fini. Done. So many reasons. So many different ways a person could die. And the last thing you want to do is have anything go to probate. I'm not an expert, by the way, folks. I am not a financial expert. I just know that the last thing you want is anything to go to probate. That is a major pain in the butt. You want all your I's dotted, all your T's crossed. Whatever you do not resuscitate wishes, all those things. Everything should be in order. And I found out something else this week, which I already knew, but it got confirmed. Just because you have a grave reserved, and by the way, good for you. You went that far. Just because you got a grave reserved doesn't mean that when you die, it's all taken care of. Because if you buy it as a gift, which my grandmother did for my father and his sister, my aunt, you still got to transfer ownership. There's a deed. That's property. You bought property. Guess what? You got to transfer that. I had to deal with that this week. That's part of the pragmatism. I spoke out 15, 20 years ago about, hey guys, we got to take care of these matters. Oh, no, don't worry. They looked at Dina, and Dina's like, no, I don't. She said this, and I'm. By the way, when I speak of my sister, I'm not trying to attack her. I'm just trying to share with you my life, so maybe you relate to it, and you could avoid it in your life. But she said to me these words, and by the way, I realize that people deal with mortality. I understand that, all different ways, and I have no fear of mortality. I embrace mortality. I try to embrace everything. She said, we will cross that bridge when we get to it. She looked at me, and she said, we will cross that bridge when we get to it. Actually, she might have said it on the phone. I don't really remember exactly how that went down. But I got to tell you, as usual, in dealing with my family, my heart sank, and I felt like crap. I'm like, really? You want to wait until we're mourning, like we did this past week? You want to wait until we're sad, which I wasn't, but my sister was. She cried for days. Apparently, that's what she told me on the phone. I cried for days. I go, oh, really? I didn't. I didn't shed one tear. I didn't shed one tear through this whole process. I have many reasons. I don't think I'm going to get to it this episode, but maybe for tomorrow on the way home. And we're going to cross that bridge. Let me tell you something, folks. If you're not okay with mortality, you got to find somebody that is. You got to cross that bridge now. Because the week that I've had since my mother passed last Saturday was so absolutely unnecessary. So absolutely unnecessary. We could have set it up, and this is a very important phrase for you guys to know. We could have set it up so one call does it all. We could have had this set up 5 years ago. We could have had this set up 2 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. We could have had it set up where one phone call does it all. You just call the funeral home and say, hey, Dave here, contract number, whatever it is. My mom died. Oh, okay. Everything's in place. My dad died. Everything's in place. Remember that meeting we had 10, 15, 20 years ago? Yes. It's all paid for. It's all done. We will come to get your mother right away. There will be no delay in the funeral. You will get the box you wanted. Which, by the way, we had to upgrade our box, the coffin, from an orange pine box or whatever, $925 to another one, because they were out of stock. They were out of stock in the cheapo boxes. So we had to go to the next cheapo box, which was $1,095. Hey, you snooze, you lose. So not only that, there was do not resuscitate. There was so many things that need to be taken care of. If there's money, if there's property, you got to take care of it. And if you don't take care of it, you're going to be in the middle of an S storm, a shite storm. SH !T storm. You're going to be in the middle of that. You're going to be you got to notify people at the same time. You got to take care of business. And this has been my job since my mother had the stroke as director of communications for the Canyon family. I did not want this job. It was given to me because nobody else would do it. I can't tell you how many phone calls over the last year and a half that I did not want to make. But I had to make all of them. And I did. I made all of them. Every one of them. Uncles, cousins. Horrible. Nobody should have to go through that. Yeah, am I making this all about me? Yeah, well, it's just dumbing it down with Dave. This is the pragmatism part of it. Maybe tomorrow I'll do more of the personal stuff. I do have something I want to share with you. I'm going to give myself, 12, 15 hours to think about it. No, but 16, 18 hours to think about it. And if I decide to share very personal stuff with you, I will tomorrow on the way home. But right now, we're just going to stick with the pragmatism. I'm doing this all on the fly. So we're 25 minutes into the show. And what have I said? Have I said nothing? I don't know. I don't really remember. But if you get anything from the show is dot your I's, cross your T's, call the funeral home now. Start making preparation now. I mean, the COVID, does that exacerbate the situation? Sure. Sure it does, yeah. There's a lot more coffins being used up now than ever before. I guess, I don't know. I really don't really follow this COVID thing as closely as I should probably. I don't. I don't have the time. I wake up, I go to work. Because, you turn on the news, it's very confusing. We should do this, we should do that, we should do this, whatever. But you know what I should do? I should go to work. That's what I do. I go to work, I come home. I'm taking care of my family the best I can. 4 minutes to go. So, that was a big takeaway this week. And it really confirmed to me, and I didn't rub it in anybody's faces, but believe me, I had many opportunities to look at my father. Because I saw him this past, what's today, Friday? I saw him Wednesday at the funeral, at the grave. We did a graveside service, which, by the way, I hosted. I did a very good job, by the way. Nobody said anything to me. That's okay. I don't care. I don't need to have congratulations and applause and pats on the back. But I did a very good job. I did. I pulled it all together. The graveside service, yeah, that was me. The funeral, the box, the whole thing, the prayers, that was me. I want to thank my friend Mark, who used to listen to the show on a regular basis. He stopped listening about 40 episodes ago. He's very busy doing his own thing, doing some Bible studies. Good for him. He's a great pastor. He's a very good pastor. He's very good to pray with. I don't pray, but I prayed with him early on, days after my mom had the stroke. And that was part of the miracle when she turned around. The day after we prayed, the day after, my mom had a miraculous recovery. And instead of talking about do not resuscitate, we were talking about acute rehab and subacute rehab. Pretty phenomenal in my life. Does it make me want to go to church? No. I don't want to go to church. Does it make me want to become a Christian rather than a Jew? No, I don't want to do anything. I'm just enjoying that moment. I'm thankful to the powers that be. Is it God? Are there aliens? Is it whatever? Is it just cosmic energy? Whatever it is. I'm grateful to that opportunity to have prayed for my mother and she got better. Would she have gotten better anyway? Maybe. Whatever. You can believe whatever you want. This show is not about, talking about is religion real and fake, whatever. It doesn't matter to me. And by the way, be careful what you wish for. You might get it. If my mother had passed, my last year and a half would have been totally different. But she stayed alive. And then I had to go down there and advocate for her. And I had to live, several feet from her bed. Too much Sonia. Too much fecal matter. Too much of International House of Nurses, all different languages. Too many faces. Too much anger. Too much resentment. Too much stress. Too little sleep. My mom would wake up every other hour. And I get up with her. Nobody cared. My family didn't give a damn. Nobody cares what I did. Nobody says a word to me. Dave, you did a great job. Thanks for helping Mom come back strong. Thanks for being there for her because we couldn't. Thanks for advocating for her. Thanks for sacrificing yourself, your health. Thank you for that. That must have been awful to live on a cot several feet from your aging, stroke-recovering mom. Listen, whether or not I love my mom or not, for the last 40 years, she hasn't been my mom. I'll talk about that in the next episode. Not the mom I wanted. Neither was my dad. Neither was anybody in my family. Family's horrible. Worst family ever. Not the worst family ever, but worse enough. I don't need them. If I never saw any one of them ever again, it would be too soon. That's pretty harsh, right? In an episode called So My Mother Died, part 1. So my mother died. Yeah. So, you can say it like that. So, my mother died. Or, so my mother died, and here's the news. Yeah. It's a little bit of both. So today was all about pragmatism. I didn't really get to it as clearly as I should have, but the bottom line is dot your I's, cross your T's, make arrangements. Make arrangements before it's too late. Thank you for listening to this episode of Dumbing It Down with Dave. Goodbye, good day, good night, good luck, good riddance, good rats, Godspeed, and great skills. Take care.